Thanks for spending time with us today. If you're new, I'm Rip Esselstyn, the founder of Plant Strong by Engine 2, and your host on this journey to eat more plants. This season of Plant Strong, our theme is the heart of a hero. We're celebrating the disruptive heroes in this movement whose pioneering work and research are amplifying the message about plants to reach as many people as possible. We're also celebrating the everyday heroes, many of whom are first responders, like our Bronx firefighter Joe Inga from Season 1, and we're helping them to overcome the obstacles that you too may be facing at home. Welcome to Plant Strong. Have you guys checked out our new website, plantstrong.com? If not, it totally rocks. It's got a full menu of resources specifically designed to help you on your journey to eat more plants. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. Visit our recipe section. Download our free 7-Day Rescue Challenge guide and much, much more. Visit plantstrong.com today. This week is a departure from the typical interview format that I have on the Plant Strong podcast. There were so many tangible takeaways from this live question and answer session that followed our private screening of the Game Changers film at Monmouth University that I knew we had to share it with you. So today, please enjoy the banter between James Wilkes and Joseph Pace, the co-producers of the Game Changers, Dr. Robert Ostfeld, a very prominent cardiologist from New York City who volunteered his expertise for the event and shared his insight as a provider who regularly prescribes plants over pills, and of course, myself. And last, but certainly not least, what could be greater than being on stage with the iconic Jon Stewart? I hope that his moderating of this event brings you back just a little bit to the glory days of The Daily Show. Enjoy.
The things that I think is important to take away from all this is that we have to not just leave it here, that there'll be an opportunity to create an action plan, so to disseminate this type of material into our communities and really start to hopefully make a difference in that. So James, I'm gonna start with you. I came to this, I've been vegetarian for about 5 years and became really just plant-based. It's been about 5 or 6 months, but I still can't disarm a man with my bare hands. So how much longer do I have to eat kale before I can take people's guns away with just my hands?
Well, it's funny actually, because there's people out there on the carnivore diet trying to rebut the film and saying that we made out that all you have to do, they said the claim that we made in this film, that all you have to do to become an elite athlete, top of your field, is just eat plants.
Doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work. You got to put in the training.
What was your position? You're a guy, you're a tough guy, you're working in the military. What is your position on this idea of plant-based or vegan, or what was your impression of that community? What did you learn through the journey in that community, and did it change your impression?
Well, yeah, I absolutely thought that if you were vegetarian or vegan, you had to be long-haired, skinny, hippie, hugging a tree. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It just it didn't feel like me, Right. I don't know if you can get that from,
I definitely got the no long hair. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I could grow it if I wanted.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. It's very manly.
Yeah. But no, I thought that basically you couldn't build any muscle. I thought that you only got protein from plants. And I remember walking into a restaurant.
You mean animals?
From animals.
I'm so into plants now that I can't even.
Right, exactly.
I thought you could only get protein from animals. And I remember walking to a restaurant and the chicken was spelt funny before I got injured. And I said, "Why is the chicken spelt like that?" They said, "Well, it's made from plants." And I said, "Well, where's the real meat?" And they said, "Well, there isn't any." And I said, "Well, what about eggs?" And dairy or something. They said, no, this is a vegan restaurant. And I looked at my buddy who's like 6'5", 260 bodybuilder, and we looked at each other. This is before all this happened, and we literally walked out. I mean, I wouldn't have had a single meal without, animal protein in that meal. So it just totally flipped on the head, when I started really digging into the research.
That's remarkable. Rip, I'm going to jump in with you now. You come from this from a slightly different perspective. He's coming at it as an elite athlete, as a fighter, as somebody who's trained in the military. You're a firefighter. Your father is a cardiologist. Were you following this when you got into firefighting, and how difficult was it, the culture of the firehouse, to insinuate a more plant-based approach in that regard?
So I was hugely inspired by my father and his groundbreaking research at the Cleveland Clinic. He was not a cardiologist.
Not a cardiologist.
He was a general surgeon, and it's interesting how somebody from outside the field of cardiology almost had to show cardiology what was possible.
So you knew all this. Your father had imparted that to the family.
Yes, he had, and I actually ate this way to fuel me as a professional triathlete for over a decade.
Wow.
And then after doing the triathlons and then deciding it was time for me to grow up and get a real job, that's when I became a firefighter, right? And that's when I introduced this lifestyle to fire too in Austin, Texas, after a fellow firefighting brother of mine was basically a dead man walking. 344 total cholesterol, 344.
Wow.
And every male on the father's side of the family perished of heart disease before the age of 50. So, yeah, we were able to bring this to life in the most unlikely place imaginable, a firehouse in Texas.
But this brings up an interesting point, which is there's a difference between facts and science and effectiveness. So I would turn to you now, doctor. Is the science indisputable? Is it something, because I'll tell you, sir, I was in a doctor's office, and there was a pamphlet in this doctor's office, and it was from the Mayo Clinic, and it said, eat heart healthy, help your heart and your cardio. And I opened it up, and literally the recipes were, it was like chicken marsala and chocolate lava cake with low-fat whipped cream. And I'm like, that's from the Mayo Clinic. So where's the disconnect, and is the science as indisputable as it may appear?
Well, as Rip was saying, I'm pretty ignorant about a bunch of things, but I'm a little less ignorant now about nutrition and health, because we learned so much from the amazing work of your father, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, and a lot of us in this space stand on the shoulders of him and his great work. And so, I've been a cardiologist now for about 15 years, and outside of a medical emergency, like somebody gets shot and has to be put back together again, I've never seen anything come close to the breadth and depth of benefits that a plant-based diet provides. Now, in terms of the science, it's incredibly compelling. There's a whole breadth of evidence in regard to plant-based nutrition, from basic science studies, test tube studies, to randomized studies, to observational studies that support eating more plants is better for a variety of types of health outcomes. And I don't know if this was said in the film, but if I told you that there was a pill that can reduce heart disease, lower your blood pressure, reduce diabetes, improve erectile function, reduce your rate of stroke, that would be the best-selling pill of all time ever. And we kind of have it, and it's broccoli. And so there is wide consensus among nutrition researchers that being almost exclusively plant-based, maybe 85%, and people quibble around the edges. Is 96% better than 98? Is 100% better than 99? There is some question in those areas, but in my experience, my patients, and this is echoed by multiple research studies and the incredible work by Dr. Esselstyn, those who go almost exclusively or fully plant-based have the most unbelievable turnarounds you've ever seen. So there's wide consensus around the majority of it, backed up by the American Heart Association, American College of Cardiology, Association of Clinical Endocrinologists, and it's around the edges that people will quibble.
So this brings up an interesting point, because I think So there's two things that go along with this then that immediately jumps to mind. One is compliance and the difficulty of compliance. And is that one of the reasons why it's not more spoken about through there? But the other part is, you mentioned it earlier, which is pushback, muddying the water. So, you said now people are coming out and they're attacking the science in this, and they're pushing back on it. Are you in the pocket of big salad? Like, is that what's, what is the reasoning, and why is it that you're, I would not see this as a controversial movie. I would never look at this and think, oh wow, people are really going to, come back at this. This is very controversial. And yet it is. In your mind, why is that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, for example, the day, it seems a bit too much of a coincidence to me, but the day before the film came out to the public, there was a study that came out in the Annals of Internal Medicine that said, eat as much red meat and processed meat as you want. These are the new guidelines. Well, usually an independent company doesn't give you, or a research body doesn't give you the general public guidelines, right? That's left to like the World Health Organization or the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And so you've really got to dig into where is that research coming from. Mm-hmm. And, it's essentially funded by the industry, right? So you've got the industry funding studies, you've got the marketing coming out, they're trying to sell a product. And you've also got people that have just tied their identity to certain things. So the carnivore diet is sort of becoming a little bit more prominent now, the keto diet. When people are sort of tied to that identity, that's another way you're going to get pushback, because they just, what did you say, facts match feelings? So if people feel a certain way, then they try to make the facts match those feelings rather than really looking at the evidence. So pushback from industry, and then pushback from people that are sort of just tied to their identity, basically.
So Rip, how do you look at this as not, because when I look at this, I think, okay, that's not a fad then. If the science of something, it's like saying walking is good for you. This isn't keto, but how do you keep a plant-based diet from being viewed as another fad diet that is out in the marketplace to sell us a pipe dream of something along those lines?
Well, as you said to James, right, he's not in the pockets of big salad. This is, to me, the most, and I've been in this deeply for the last 32 years, but this is just a simple truth. And to me, when you can part through all the noise and the clutter, it just seems so bloody obvious to me. It's frightening.
This has been very different, but I feel much better, but like, it's a difficult, when I sit and I watch the football games now and I see a plant-based burger being advertised during football games, something's changed. Something's turned. There's a momentum here. And how do we capitalize that, and how does that continue through?
Yeah, well, there's a few. I think we built the film. I mean, James's journey was documented for almost 7 years. And we actually filmed 50 athletes and 50 experts, and about a dozen of each showed up in the film. I think that the stereotype busting was fundamentally important as a pitch point. We needed to deal with this idea about protein in plants, what we're built to eat, like what our natural setup is for, some of the other myths that have been propagated by industry about estrogen and soy and carbs and that stuff. Because if you actually look, do a deep dive on how a lot of this mythology start, it always goes back to the industry and where it's crazy. Even this red meat study that came out, I was like behind the scenes researching where the funding for it came from, and it's like pretty explicit when you really dig around. So that's the first thing, is to shatter the myths that are blocking people. I think the second thing is making it accessible, which is a big problem, because my brother-in-law Evan said that his fire chief went plant-based, but said it was like having a Tesla with no plug-in stations, because he'd be out in a call and stop at a corner store and want, a meal or food, or Tim Hortons, which I don't know if you guys have those here, but like.
It's like a Dunkin' Donuts, but more polite.
Yeah. So for him, the barrier was a little bit about accessibility, and then I think the bigger one will be the cultural shift. And this is the thing we're seeing. I don't know if any of you have already started following us on Instagram and stuff, but you see these conversations like Kai Green, the runner-up, Mr. Olympia, talking to Hap Thorsch Bjornsson, the Mountain from Game of Thrones, the World's Strongest Man, and all these soccer players, and they're all starting to talk about it like, why don't we try this? And that's when the top-down thing is going to be really powerful. It's got to be a little bit of ground up, but a lot of institutionalized stuff as well. It has to just be, there's probably 10 levels it has to happen at. You have to go to the grocery store, there's Hungry Man, there's a plant-based version. It has to be the corner store, there's the pepperoni sticks, and then there's something better. There has to be a different conversation, yeah. There has to be a plant-based, guys have to view it differently when they go out for dinner, and it's
Right.
like,
It has to insinuate into the economy. And that's where I think, so this is why it's important. One of the reasons we wanted to have a lot of medical professionals from the area in here is when it gets to you, I think one of the crucial locus points for people is their hospital, their physician. That's where they are focused on, you've come to them for a reason.
Have you ever considered that your choice in pet food has a huge impact on the environment? I know that I never thought about it until very, very recently. And what I discovered is that the meat-based food eaten by Americans' dogs and cats alone generates the equivalent of 64 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. That's about the equivalent of a year's worth of driving from 13.6 million cars. With all the devastation that's going on right now in the environment, I feel really good about discovering Wild Earth dog food. Not only can you make a better choice for your dog's health, but you can also make a better choice for the planet's health. And that's something that we all can kind of get behind. It's a nutritionally complete, high-protein adult dog food without the need for animal-sourced ingredients. It just makes sense. And my dog Jade will tell you as much. Visit wildearth.com or Amazon and use the code PLANTSTRONG for 40% off your first order.
Is there anyone in the audience? Yes, there's a question way in the back there. So right there. Yeah, let's turn the lights up there.
Hi, how are you? My name is Mary. I'm a professor here, and I also work for nutritionfacts.org and Dr. Greger. I'm his media director, so hi. I wanted to ask for the people in the audience here who are not plant-based, what advice you would have for when they leave today, if they might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed by what they saw in the film. What are the next steps for them, especially the students here? Thank you.
That's a great question.
You know what? I think you should go to GameChangersMovie.com, and they have the most amazing information, resources available online. Second right there might be Engine2.com, but it's phenomenal. What do you think?
Yeah, well, our philosophy is all or something, not all or nothing. And I think that the idea of prescriptive change, like we'll tell you exactly what to eat, and here's your exact meal plan, isn't as effective as we might have hoped, and that adaptive stuff is important. So start it, own it, make it whatever pace you want, whatever goal you have. If it's 100%, 50%, 20%, it's your business, nobody else's. And I think that's like really fundamental, because this movement has pointed a lot of fingers at people. 100% this, or do it for the animals, or you're a murderer, or you're going to die if you eat, this much egg white or whatever. But the reality is there's gray areas in everything, and it's your business. So I think all or something is our big approach.
And yeah, go ahead.
These are phenomenal resources, and I would just, not let perfection be the enemy of good. And there's plenty of data out there that even, there's an incredible study where they looked at it was like 200,000 people, 3.5 million person years of follow-up. Like if you follow me for 1 year in a study, that's 1 person year of follow-up. This is by Dr. Song on Archives of Internal Medicine, or 2016, I think. Anyway, so 3 million person years of follow-up. And they just asked, if you replace just 3% of your calories from animal protein with 3% of calories from plant-based protein, is that good? Is that not good? It turns out it was good. If you replace just 3% of your calories from animal-based protein with 3% of calories from plant, you lived longer. And they had so many people in it, they were able to slice and dice it by different kinds of animal proteins. So, processed red meats with, 34% lower hazard of death, red meat 12%, dairy 6%, fish 6%, poultry 6%. So perfection should not be the enemy of good.
I can tell you as somebody too who's come to this and evolved over a long period of time, like I just, for myself, because eating is a very personal thing to people, and I think it's really difficult to preach to somebody accusatorily about the way that they eat or what their person, like everybody is different. And there was a time for me where I remember going to Taco Bell and I got the 7-layer burrito because I was like, is that vegetarian? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I'm killing it. You know what I mean? Like, that's, and I think for me, it was just an attempt to do a little bit better for myself than I did the year prior. And if that just meant, I stopped going to that one barbecue place every Sunday. Like, that was just something, you can make incremental change for yourself. This isn't one of those like, join our group or be cast aside. I think it's not like that. Yeah, you had a question. Oh, I'm sorry, right over there. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for this great presentation. So I'm a surgeon about to turn 61 in 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours?
No applause.
Oh
No
my
applause.
God. Oh,
thank you.
I got you this for your birthday.
That's right.
Just
Is that plant-based? Okay.
Yes.
So here's the thing, is my observation. So great idea, but I had two areas. One, when we start to advocate for plant-based diets, one of the slides I saw showed the atherosclerotic process versus the normal artery. So one question patients are going to ask, are you going to see a reversal of my atherosclerotic disease? And the most important thing is many of us are physicians here or healthcare professionals. When we look at changing behavior, just like this, and this is very important, many of our patients are not able to maintain it. So you folks are great advocates, but how do you recommend that us putting that message forward to get people engaged and keep people involved and maintain and not relapse? Thanks.
Well, those are great points. In regard to the atherosclerosis, in some cases you may see the plaque shrink. In some cases you may not. But what almost always happens is the plaque becomes healthier. The artery becomes healthier. The endothelial cells are able to make more nitric oxide, making you, the turbo engine that you were when we were 12, 14 years old. It stops us from turning ourselves into clunkers. Although the plaque may not shrink, the plaque will get healthier. In some cases, it does shrink. And as you know, even if the artery opens a teeny little bit, blood flow is related to the 4th power of the radius. So a little bit more opening, a lot more flow, and you can feel a lot better. And of course, there's all kinds of other ancillary benefits. So I certainly don't promise my patients that their plaque is going to go away, but I do feel very confident saying they'll become healthy in all kinds of different ways. And I don't know if you guys want to comment on compliance, or I'd be happy to talk about that too. So behavior change is like the holy grail of medicine, Like, we all kind of know that eating kale is good for us, but getting ourselves to do it is the hard part. So I'm by no means perfect at it. I have plenty of patients who give me the Heisman for like 3 years, and then maybe they'll come back the next visit 20 pounds later. I'm like, what happened? Like, well, I finally decided to listen to you. So I'm like, all right, cool. So what we do is we take a multi-pronged approach. So there's in clinic, I'm like you guys, I have to churn through, I have 40 minutes for new patients, 20 minutes for a follow-up, and do all the usual stuff, medications, H&P, all that stuff. So we educate them during the visit. I have specific handouts I give them with checklists of exactly what I would like them to do. We have these Saturday morning sessions that are 4 or 5 hours long that we don't charge patients for. We take a deep dive into it, modeled after Rip Esselstyn's father, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. We have patients come back in every couple of months just for a blood pressure or a weight check, more for accountability than anything else. And we try to have their family member come with them to help them along the way. We outsource a lot of the education. We ask patients to watch the game changers. You only have so much time in the clinic, so it really helps to reinforce it. So we take a multi-pronged approach to try to help people move along the way. And we have plenty of people that are on the wagon, off the wagon, who blow me off, don't blow me off, but we try with all those different tacts.
I was going to say the reason I think some of us stalled is because I think being a healthcare provider is probably one of the hardest positions to be in, because getting people to even I don't do, when I go see my physiotherapist, and I don't go home and do exactly what they tell me to do, but because they say you are the 5 people you hang around the most, not the one that you see however often. So that's a big part of it, and that's a big part of our goal with the film, is that people, male or female at gyms or athletes, start to see other athletes, and it starts to become socially accepted, and that changes very quickly. Look at how quickly people embraced paleo stuff. They cut dairy right out. They cut, legumes, horrifying, and whole grains out. And there's guys and men and women, I was 50-50 when I last looked, but eating berries and meat. And so they're actually, if people are motivated and the people around them at the gym are motivated and whatever, it actually can happen. But without that sort of support, it's challenging. So that's a big part of it, is getting the people around you to at least let you try it. And if you can bring 1 or 2 of them with you a little bit, that's proven to be even more effective.
Yeah, and it really takes a village, I totally agree. And that's one of the amazing things about tonight. Each of you is doing incredible stuff with your health, your families, your communities, and then seeing the amazing stuff in this film, when you leave, you can bring that to your community and start to change things in your neighborhood, in your home, where you work. And it's powerful. That's incredibly important. And one other thing we do in our clinic is we try to find a hook for patients. Do you want to come off your meds? Do you want to walk your child down the aisle? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to improve your erectile function? Something that is meaningful to them, and sort of wrap the story of plant-based nutrition around that.
Yeah. And let me just say, don't make this more complicated and difficult than it has to be. This can be the most simple thing to implement ever. Most Americans rotate around maybe 2 to 3 breakfasts. Find 1 or 2 plant-based breakfasts that you love, oatmeal with some fruit on top, and you're set for breakfast. Most Americans rotate around maybe 3 different lunches and 7 different dinners. There's no variety whatsoever. The plant-based universe is limitless. And if you want to keep it simple like John, you can keep it simple. If you want to go crazy like James, you can do that. But there's a veritable smorgasbord of delectability out there at your.
That is a sentence you don't hear a lot. There is a veritable smorgasbord of deliciousness. We've got to leave. We're going to take 2 more questions, and then we're going to end it. So I apologize for that. Yes.
Yes, good evening. As a 42-year-old woman, second-generation vegetarian, and now vegan for 11 years, I can attest that there is some differences in when you change diet from vegetarian to vegan. There is a period of what I come to realize is close to a withdrawal when you ditch dairy. Have you guys experienced anything like that?
I felt like I had the flu for the first one. When I went full plant-based, I did feel like I had the flu. It was the same when I quit smoking. It was the same thing. But after that, I had this weird rush of, I guess you'd call it, happiness. Which I had not experienced in the past. And and I did enjoy it.
I've definitely heard that before, and cheese is a particularly difficult one for our patients to come off of. And for the nurse practitioner, I work in the Bronx, and about 85% of our patients who come to see us at Montefiore are on some degree of public support, and so we work with them to be creative about ways to buy in bulk and frozen and not organic, and be happy to talk with you about some things we do after. And so cheese is addictive. It actually has casomorphine in it. Morphine, it's like a cow morphine. And it's addictive. And if you think about it teleologically, it kind of makes sense. Like you want the calf to kind of chill out when it's nursing for months. It'll keep nursing. But so if you take the milk and then you concentrate it, you've got like concentrated casomorphine. And then of course they're tossing in like salt and other stuff to really trigger all those receptors. So it's actually addictive. And so it can be a bit of a process coming off of it. But taste buds do change after a month or two. But that's why sometimes I'll ask patients to go all in, and whichever, if a person wants to go part of the way, that's great, but I also ask patients to go all in a lot because it takes a little while to break the addiction, and if you go just halfway, you're not really breaking it.
Interesting. We, on the panel, like to call cheese dairy crack.
I can see that. That's why now I don't eat cheese, but I do smoke Swiss. All right, yes, sir.
Hey there, guys. So, first of all, I just want to introduce myself. I'm a strength coach and trainer.
We couldn't tell.
I'm down Tinton Falls, down the street, and I've actually been. Just in case you guys are wondering if this works for normal people, it freaking works. I didn't used to be into this, but I became vegan 6.5 years ago. I haven't eaten meat since 2008, and within the past year, I've broken many of my own personal records with a 570-pound deadlift and another 600-pound deadlift and a lot of other strength feats. I train first responders as well, and a lot of other people just getting in shape, athletes. And I was just wondering, for James, as someone who trains some of the toughest, people on earth, what is your message to them and to your peers to kind of break the ice on this topic?
Really, I just show them the film now, which is
that's easy, right?
While we've been making it, it takes a lot. There's a lot more to explain it. But surprisingly, that sort of demographic has been really receptive. Firefighters have been receptive. I've got a lot of military reaching out to me on, through social media. I think people are just watching the film because I think that's the best way to get the. It's a lot easier than explaining everything to them. So.
Or it's just seeing people like you. That easy.
Now I suddenly want to take a class. I don't know why. But I thought I was doing really good till like 30 seconds ago. All right.
Now, I do have before you go, is this all whole food plant-based? You doing protein supplements? What's...
It's vast majority, especially in the past 2 to 3 years. Sorry. The past 2 to 3 years have been my best years by far, and that's been mostly whole food plant-based with some, occasional veggie burgers and plant protein supplements just for convenience, just to hit my macronutrients and do my thing. So, but definitely my best year was this past year.
Awesome.
After many years.
Say it again.
I think you said lift up his shirt.
You want to come up here?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Right.
It says Kel, yeah. It's a pun. We have fun around it.
Can you see mine? Mine says old Jew. Well, first of all, I want to thank our distinguished panel. Let's give them a nice round of applause for being here to join me. University for helping us to arrange this. But mostly, I would like to thank my wife, Tracy, whose passion for this has where'd she go? Oh, there she is. Honey. Thank you. If you're thinking about what's a good way for me to turn to a plant-based diet, having her stare disapprovingly at you while you eat, really effective. But thank you guys. Let's not let this conversation just die here tonight. So I urge any of you who are within the medical community here, let's please, they've got the resource card. please reach out. I'd like to connect our community with their community and with the college community, and we could really build something very special. So thank you all very much for coming out tonight. I'm sorry? And the school community is, yes, no question. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. So thank you guys very much. Get home safe. We'll see you.
Before we wrap up today, I want to talk candidly about how we've made it easier for thousands of people to eat this way with our Plant Strong meal planner. We know that making a big change can seem overwhelming, and it isn't easy coming up with new menus week over week over week, or to get inspired while learning to cook a new way. To help inspire you, we've created a simple and inexpensive solution in our Plant Strong meal planner. It's filled with hundreds of recipes, and we are adding more all the time. And it has the really, really savvy ability to customize your menus around your individual preferences, your household size, and any allergens or dislikes you have. Pretty darn trick. And the meal planner, it's staffed 7 days a week with the absolutely friendliest Engine 2 coaches who will help you answer any and all of your questions. I would invite you to visit mealplanner.plantstrong.com. It's just $1.90 a week when you sign up for a year, and you can save $10 off the annual plan with the code PLANTSTRONG. I look forward to hearing what recipes you and your family love. Thank you for listening and subscribing to our show. I want you to know that we read each and every one of your reviews, and we appreciate each and every one. If you want to learn more about this season or today's guests and sponsors, please visit PlantStrongPodcast.com. The Plant Strong podcast team includes Scott Badisil, Lori Kordowich, Amy Mackey, Patrick Gavin, Wade Clark, and Carrie Barrett. I want to thank my parents, Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn Jr. and Ann Kryle Esselstyn, for creating a legacy that will be carried on for generations and being willing to go against the current and trudge upstream to the causation. We are all better for it.